Hey Migraines with Migraines, this is Albaraa, and in today's episode, we will be discussing the mental health struggles of high school students and how that was affected by the coronavirus pandemic. I currently have four guest stars today: Marlene, Adnan, Amelia, and Yusuf. You guys can go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Yeah, hi, my name is Adnan Khalili. I'm a 16-year-old junior in high school, and I'm the founder of an initiative called Free the Bird, which works to empower the youth by destigmatizing youth mental health. And I also have the co-founder in this call with us.
Hi guys, I'm Yusuf Elsmore. I'm also 16 years old and I'm also a junior. I'm the co-founder of Free the Bird. Like Adnan said, is a mental health initiative was created to fight mental health stigma.
Hi everyone, my name is Marlene. I'm a 17-year-old in high school. I'm a junior, and I'm an advocate in the NJCIC Mental Health Advocacy.
My name is Amelia, and I'm another 16-year-old junior in high school, and I'm simply friends with Albaraa and Marlene.
Okay, everyone. So let's dive right into it. So, how was your guys' experience with mental health? Just tell me your guys' story. I want to get to know you guys more.
I can begin.
Go for it, Adnan.
So when I was a freshman in high school, which was only a few years ago, I was on the way to the buffet with my friends on a Friday night, and I was supposed to have like a really fun night. But on the way there, I just couldn't breathe anymore. My mom had to pull over, and we went into a random person's house. And overall, I just kept shaking. I had to keep using the bathroom. I had no idea what was up with me because something like this has never happened to me before, and I never heard of anything similar to this. So I seriously thought I was dying. And so the ambulance came, we went to the hospital, and everything was fine with me. They did an EKG, they checked my heart palpitations, and everything was completely fine physically. But at the same time, I knew that something was still wrong with me. Nobody was helping me or telling me what it was. The only good thing I got out of this was that my dad already had something similar. So he was already reassuring me it was anxiety, but I still had no idea what it was. And I was so scared. And that was when I first had my anxiety attack. And then from then on, I still had multiple attacks after that during school, outside of school. And for those few months, especially, of course, now it still has caught up with me. But for those few months, especially, I felt completely horrible. And that was my experience.
Like, do you still get these anxiety attacks now, or is it better?
I don't necessarily get the anxiety attacks, but I still kind of sort of every now and then feel the shortness of breath or some of the physical symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something that happens every single day, but it's still there. And it's kind of like people around me can notice it, but it's not like as bad as it was a few years ago.
That's an incredible story, bro. But like, how do you deal with it? Like, is there any like methods or habits you formed because of with your experience with these anxiety attacks?
I wouldn't say habits I formed naturally, but I did receive therapy. So when I was at therapy, they taught me certain techniques, such as like grounding techniques. I'm not sure if you ever heard of that, but
Yeah.
also deep breathing techniques and all of these other things that they just taught me so that whenever I had an anxiety attack, or at least I saw the symptoms of an anxiety attack, I could easily prevent them. And even now, I still use some of them. If I ever think like I'm having a single symptom of what could cause an anxiety attack, I would do that. But usually they stay at the symptoms now. They don't really go much bigger than that.
Wow, bro. Do you know what caused it? Or you said you were just out with your friends?
Directly, I have no idea. I do know that it correlates with my uncle's death, which was in July, and this was in September. So that might have been a reason. I know that during that death, I didn't actually have any reaction, like I didn't cry or anything like everybody else, even though he was really close to me. So I guess that all held in from there. And overall, I've just been I guess I've always held things inside of me, and I've never really shown that instantly. I've always had like that shock factor. So maybe everything caught up with me. I actually have no idea though, and I know that that's common for a lot of people, that there's not always a specific thing that causes something like this, and sometimes the reason is not always that simple to understand.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to not giving myself time to deal with like all of the anxiety in life, because like the reason why I do so much in school and I'm involved in so many extracurriculars is that I don't have free time, is simply the fact that I don't want to have free time. Like I can't.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I don't want to, and like it's kind of cowardly, but I don't want to like leave myself in a space where my mind wanders, I always want to keep my mind occupied, because I've like seen where just like being alone and like these crazy thoughts, like I've seen where that can lead an individual, and it's into a scary place.
I'm sure that contributes to the coronavirus too, because a lot of people are lonely.
Yeah. But what about you guys, Yusuf, Marlene, Amelia?
So my story is kind of like it's kind of hard to talk about, but I'll talk about it.
Yeah, bro. You can share as much as you want or as little as you want, as much as, because it's you. I'm here for you. As much as you feel comfortable to share, you can share.
All right.
Yeah.
So basically, I grew up with an abusive father. Thank God I was able to overcome that stage. But I grew up with an abusive father. Not like it wasn't like physical abuse. It was more mental abuse, which is kind of like why what's it called? It relates to everyone who had has or had a mental health illness. So basically, yeah. So I had to go to therapy, like 4 years of family therapy, just to overcome that stage, or that part of my life. But yeah, that's basically about it. That's how much I want to share. But what I'm saying is everyone has their stories and stuff. So everyone should keep in mind that you don't know what people are going through and stuff like that. So just watch how you treat people.
Yeah, bro. I can definitely relate to having an abusive father. Like the last time I saw my father, I think, I don't even know, it might have been fourth grade, maybe around when I was 8 or 7. I don't even know. And our relationship, it was terrible. And I wish he did more to get to know me as his son, but unfortunately, he just had better things to do. But
Wow.
it wasn't the best of a relationship, and a lot of like my OCD, my anxiety, and my ADHD, like it all stemmed from like childhood abuse, and like all of just living in a terrible environment, right? But I feel that if you can know how to cope with that, because at a really young age I started researching the brain, and I started learning so much about the brain, as much as I can, so I can know how to help myself, because I knew that my family in the past, like they didn't think that mental health like existed. So
And I think that's part of that stigma thing.
exactly.
It's like stigmatized by especially immigrant parents, back in their they didn't really believe in mental health.
Exactly, yeah. But I started to do my own research, and
yeah, that's dope.
I think it's rare though. Not a lot of people do their own research, and most of the time when people do their research, they don't find the results that actually mean anything.
Yeah, I started to find ways to combat my mental illnesses like holistically. Like I would meditate every day, and I was in elementary school meditating, and then when I would tell other people, it's yeah, bro, I meditate, you should try this, and then I would get bullied. I'm like, who meditates? No one meditates. But I learned how to deal with all of this anxiety, and now I have a high stress tolerance. I feel like I can carry a lot and still keep going, and I think a part of that is just life, to see how much you can carry and continue living. But Marlene and Amelia.
I have generalized anxiety, OCD. I've felt this for majority of my life. I can't remember a time where I didn't have anxiety. I'm not sure exactly what triggered it or what it stemmed from, but ever since I was a kid, when I was in first grade, my sister died from cancer, and since then, my whole family and my mom, and it kind of, I guess, tore us apart, and no one was really allowed to show feelings. I guess after a traumatic event like that, none of them, I've never seen any of my siblings or mom cry or talk about their feelings. Nobody talked about it. It kind of just happened, and then everybody I guess, got over it by themselves. And I never was able to really express any feelings or any of the fears that I had, because seeing that happen was really scary. And I had all these fears. Like, I was scared that if I was in the same room she was in, like, I would get cancer, or if I touched something that she touched, I would get it too. And I can never talk about this because my feelings didn't matter. And I tried to, but they said, like, no one in this family has feelings. You're not allowed to have feelings. Since when did we feel sad? Since when did we cry? You're not allowed to cry. Go to your room. Like, and just growing up with that and hearing, like, you're not allowed to show feelings made me, I guess, keep to myself a lot. And I didn't really talk to others. My mom was really strict, so I never hung out with other people outside of school. I was by myself for a long time, and that's how my OCD, I guess, amplified. It wasn't as bad, and then when I stopped going out and only stayed at home, it just got worse because I was alone with my mind for a really long time, and I started overthinking everything. Like, I couldn't even watch a TV show without repeating, like, every word that the actor said, without pausing it multiple times to repeat it in my head. And it became ruminating and overthinking, and I couldn't do anything without having so many mental rituals. And it started to take a big toll over my life, and I never really knew how to deal with it because I never had anybody to talk to.
That's so crazy, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Marlene and I, we grew up in the same town, and we went to the same elementary school, and we were friends in elementary school, and I would have never guessed you were dealing with something like that. It's like you never know what someone's going through. Wow.
Same thing with me and Yusuf. I never really knew anything about his father until even recently. So I never really saw anything with him. And I never actually was able to tell myself that something was going on in his life that drastic.
Yeah. And that's what's so amazing about this podcast. We all come together and share personal details. But yeah, Marlene, I can definitely relate to the OCD part. I also, when I was very young, I had to perform like these crazy rituals, and if they weren't performed perfectly, like, I was convinced that, like, anarchy was gonna rain down. I had to collect rocks when going to school, and then I would show up in school with a bag of rocks. I had to, before entering the car, I had to tap the handle 4 times. Before entering the house, also tap the handle. I had to run to the closet, open it 3 or 4 times. And if I didn't perform these rituals, then I felt like I was going insane. I felt like there was something terrible that was going to happen. But I don't know if I should mention this, but, like, screw it. My brother also grew up with OCD, and he was diagnosed early on, like earlier than me. So I feel like my mom was so busy dealing with him because he really had severe OCD. And I feel like my mom was so busy dealing with him that she missed out on all of my symptoms, and she wasn't really able to see, like, oh, my other child was struggling with OCD as well. So yeah, so the way that I dealt with it, I didn't, yeah, because at the time I didn't know it was OCD. I thought I was just like it was like these fun games, like, that I was playing with myself. Like, I had to do this, or like I was challenging myself. Like, I didn't know, like, this was a mental illness. All right. So then slowly but surely, like, I was like, no, I'm being childish. And I would always tell myself, oh, I need to grow up. And this was like at age like 7. I'm like, I need to grow up. Yeah, I need to grow up. I need to stop playing these stupid games with myself. And I would sit down for hours just thinking, like, what would happen. I would sit down in front of my closet. I would be like, you don't have to keep opening your closet, right? What is going to happen if you don't open it? Nothing, right? And I did that continuously, and now my OCD today is like at a minimum.
I think
medication.
I personally didn't have any, like, diagnosis of OCD, but having anxiety, I had, like, similar crossovers, and I can relate to, like, opening a door, or even turning the knob all the way several times, or checking the closet or opening the closet door.
Mhm.
And if you don't, like you have these absurd thoughts in your mind.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can relate to those. How like you feel like performing these certain mental rituals or even like external rituals that they're going to protect you from harm, and that if you don't do it, you're basically putting yourself in harm's way.
Which
Yeah.
is crazy to think about because how else does somebody just or get these thoughts in their head where a lot of other children never ever experience things like this, and then there's a select few who do, and so those people that do don't actually understand the people that are experiencing these things.
Mm. Yeah, I think the way, like I'm not an expert in this field, but I think the way it does form, like there is a certain genetic like this like precursor to this, but I think it's activated through like some trauma that an individual experiences, and then they're like, oh, and then in defense, the brain like starts to develop these illnesses that counteract like its defense mechanism. What am I
Yeah,
saying?
I actually no, I
Yeah,
understand what you're
yeah,
saying. When I was younger, like around 8 years old,
yeah.
or maybe younger than that or older than that. I was once at a park with my family, and I was riding the bike and I fell over, just normal kid falling over on his bike, and I turned the I guess whatever you call it, that you riding the bike. I turned it and hit the pedal into my chest, and so at that moment I went up to my mom. I was like I couldn't breathe, but I was actually fine. Nothing was wrong with me. And it went away in a few seconds later. And I never, at that time, I never thought about it. But then every time I would get into the car and I would put the seatbelt on, I would feel really bothered from having the seatbelt trust my chest. And even like now to this day, I still have that same thing, even though nothing physically is wrong with me. And I still every now and then would like tell my mom, I want to go to the doctor, get it checked out. Nothing's actually wrong with me. It's just that one trauma, that one traumatic experience caused me to forever have that one physical symptom. And I guess that's also contributing to my anxiety as well. But all these things go together to make something like that.
Bro, I feel like something that would really help with that is meditation, because what meditation does, it helps you be aware of how you're feeling and your thoughts, right? And once you're like fully aware of your thoughts, then you can really dive deep into your like mind and like emotions and make some adjustments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like that's super important. I feel like meditation was like the number one thing that helped me. Um, like actually like think reasonably and like protect myself from worsening my mental illness. Um, but Amelia,
Hello.
go for it. What's up?
So I don't know, I feel like I've been dealing with like ADHD and anxiety kind of like since I've been born. In elementary school, I had like a problem with like stimming. I guess I never really, well, it's not a problem. There's nothing wrong with stimming, but I never masked at the time because I didn't think there was anything wrong with me,
Yeah.
except my stimming was very noticeable to other kids and I guess it distracted them. So I would constantly be like brought into separate rooms doing testing in like other places, which led to my diagnosis when I was 9. And even when I was diagnosed, I have no memory of getting diagnosed, but my parents never told me what I had, and I didn't find out until I was 11.
Mhm.
So that entire time, like when I would be like separated from other kids, they were kind of jealous of me because we would take tests and I would always take tests in a separate room, and I just wanted to be with everybody else.
Mhm.
Like I finished on time. I have like a big thing for punctuation, but mainly when finishing assignments, because like if I don't finish, which is crazy because I basically never turn my work in on time. Or
Yeah.
like if I'm not one of the first people to finish a test, then I'm like really hard on myself. And basically like calling myself like useless and like other things, other not so nice things.
Oh my God.
Um, it doesn't help that like my family, they were always so happy. Like they never showed any negative emotions.
Mhm.
So I just figured, okay, that's how life is supposed to be. And I never really got to talk to anybody or see like how life really is unless I was with my grandmother. And whenever I was with my grandmother, she would show those emotions because she also dealt with like anxiety and depression. And all I saw was my mom and her get into fights like all the time. except it was in Spanish, so I have no clue what they were about. All I saw was that my mom and my grandmother cry, and I kind of like felt resentment towards my mom for that.
Mhm.
And when I was 11, my grandmother, who was basically the only person I felt close to, passed away.
Oh well.
No.
So that's like kind of that was a major turning point for me. Like throughout elementary school, I had to like get separated from my classmates for like stimming, either that or I had like a panic attack or something.
Mhm.
It was like excessive, like sobbing, hyperventilating, and I always got like a lot of attention because of it. So once I got into middle school, which was around the same time my grandmother passed away, I just didn't want to be noticed by anybody, and that's when I started like shutting myself out.
Yeah.
I have a question. You mentioned your family always being really happy, but your grandma showing you a little bit more of life. Was that because your family always didn't show you, I guess, your family didn't actually respond to having these issues, and your grandma actually showed you that it is an issue, or was it just because something else?
I feel like growing up, my family's very open with like partying and stuff like that. They're very social.
Yeah.
So like we would always be in front of other crowds and they just want to present nicely in front of other people. So even if I was dealing with something negative, they would just be like, okay, that's great. Put on a smile now because we're going out. Like,
Okay. Yeah, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, but dealing with school, like growing up, like it's like school was a struggle for me as well. But I oh my God, like as long as I can remember, I think up until ninth grade when I was like officially diagnosed, my ADHD was like off rails, and I thought I had a learning disorder. Um, I couldn't sit down and read. I hated reading like crazy. Every time a book was assigned, I would spark note it like crazy, and I would just find these tricks to get out of doing things. I would try to work smart and not hard. Um, and it took me so long to finish the most simplest assignments because of my OCD and my ADHD. I couldn't sit down without making sure the seat was adjusted perfectly. I couldn't write with a pencil if it wasn't sharpened enough to like a certain point. And every time it was, and every time that point um um what was sharded down. I had to keep sharpening it until it was perfect, and it took me like 4 hours in like elementary school to just do simple worksheets. But I still got good grades because like I saw the environment that was around me, and I saw like in order to get out of this negative environment and this negative family structure, that I felt like school was my only safe place. And I felt like I had to succeed in school or there would be nothing for me.
I'm going to branch off on the subject of school. That's also like a safe place for me because I never got like any attention at home. And at school, I used to get that attention and validation. And I like lived off of that. And I put all of my like self-worth into school. And I think it was maybe a mix of anxiety and OCD, but I had to have perfect grades all the time. And I didn't care how much time it took to get the assignment perfect or how long I had to study to memorize the entire lesson to make sure that I got 100 because that's what I wanted in every single class, a 100. And I vividly remember getting my first 98 in middle school because I got one question wrong on a test and I completely broke down and I had my first anxiety attack and I like couldn't breathe and I was like hyperventilating and my mind was all over the place. I didn't know what I was going to do because I thought my whole life was over. So all my self-worth is on school and all I had to do is get 100 in everything and I couldn't even do that. And I was like falling apart.
When I got my anxiety attack, I was obviously, it was the first year of high school, so I was already a lot more stressed than usual. and I was trying my best to get the highest grades. But then when I had the anxiety attack, that kind of threw me off the rails. And I remember like emailing teachers and asking for extensions, and I received that support from my teachers and everything. But um, at the end, when I was finally starting to slowly um, get help from therapy and other sources, I got a 4.0 twice, and that was because I was like, that was the way I would go to kind of calm down from everything that already happened. And if I could get 100 or get high grades in school, then that would lift up my spirits a little bit more.
So guys, I want to take you back to your freshman year of high school when COVID first hit. What was your experience?
Breaking news tonight, the coronavirus forcing millions more Americans into virtual lockdown. Over 75 million people in New York, California, Illinois, and Connecticut ordered to stay at home.
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know.
At least 6 people have died in an outbreak of the new coronavirus.
Thousands of passengers on that cruise ship are stuck at sea off the coast of California right now, confined to their rooms as they wait for test results.
With all of this news comes a lot of mental health struggles, and so we want to dedicate the rest of this episode to sharing some of the challenges that we as students during the pandemic have faced.
As much as I hated, like, being stuck inside, like sometimes I do miss the times being stuck inside because like my mental state was like a little better because I really didn't have to deal with like anyone except for like online schooling. It was kind of like a mental health vacation, but we just like, didn't realize it.
That I can kind of relate to a mix of like staying inside and going crazy because of it, but also feeling relaxed because of it, which is weird. Like I would go back and forth with that feeling.
Yeah.
Because I can't stand things being too consistent. It's like, I think I can kind of, not all the time, but most of the time I can adapt to things pretty quickly. But once my life is the same for like a certain amount of time, I kind of start like going off the edge and stuff. Like freshman year, once COVID hit, I stopped doing all my homework. And usually I was like really strict about my grades. So my work ethic in that sense, I couldn't keep up with that. But like socially, I've been like sexualized since a very, very young age. So I kind of appreciated having the break from going to school because I feel uncomfortable in front of like groups of people.
I guess when COVID hit for me, the first couple of weeks I did enjoy, and I did enjoy the break of not having to like divide myself as much, because I was like in a ton of clubs freshman year, and it was so much easier to just join virtually or participate virtually than in person. So I felt like I was getting a lot done, and I was completely wrong in that sense where I'll say like maybe a month in, my mental health really took its toll. Like it's like I would just cry myself to sleep, just pitying myself. So like some dark thoughts like started entering my mind about my childhood. It's like, why don't I have a dad? I started like yelling at my mom. I started like wrongfully directing my anger towards other people. The depression really kicked in. I started debating the existence of God and why we're on this planet. And that was all, I think, due to not really having that social experience, because I think that what the pandemic really taught everyone was that how much all of us really rely on a social experience and then social interaction. And at first I thought, I don't need social interaction, I'm not that social. But I came out of the pandemic even more social than I entered it. I thought that I would never like recover. Like I was at a certain point where I thought like I was gonna destroy my life forever, and I was heading down that path. But the only thing that picked me up during that time was running and track practice. Coach would be like, whatever you're going through, just go for a run, because when I'm running, I feel like there's just nothing wrong with anything, and I'm just focused on me and my body and the run itself. For me, running really took me out of that dark place at first, and then I really had to rebuild my relationship with God, and I feel now that, thankfully, like that sense of security in my faith. When back then in COVID, it was like my moral compass was lost.
Yeah, it really can make you question a lot of things that you thought you really believe in, and then make your belief stronger after that.
Yeah. And what about you, Marlene?
So during COVID, my mom doesn't really let me go out a lot. She's very strict on that. So the only social interaction I had throughout the day was at school. And when that was taken away and we were online, even though I can still see my friends' faces through the screen, it wasn't the same as when we were in person or at the lunch table. And then it felt like the whole day I was by myself and I was alone with my thoughts. And that's the main reason why my mental health got significantly worse over quarantine. And it got really bad to the point where I had to see a psychiatrist for it. And it was the first time I was ever prescribed medication for my mental illnesses. And it's because of how much I was alone. And my psychiatrist said that if I opened up to people more or talked to others about what I was feeling, that it wouldn't have gotten so bad. But I never really learned those like communication skills or like how to open up to somebody without them leaving. And it just left me to think by myself, and everything just got worse.
Yeah, it definitely is important to really keep your mind open, despite how hard it is. It's really important to get your thoughts out on like just out of your mind, get them out of your head, whether that's on paper or just talking to someone. Journaling helped me for a bit, but I kind of strayed from that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. This year I've been trying to open up a lot more and talk to people about what I'm feeling, and I've already noticed I feel so much better, and it feels a lot easier to go on. And anytime I am overthinking, I'll just quickly call my friend and just talk to them, because talking to somebody else, you're not alone with your mind, and it really helps.
I definitely see the after quarantine, a lot of people increase in talking about what they're going through. Okay, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this.
Go for it.
Trigger warning for suicide. Before, I've never really thought about it before, offing myself. I want to say the first time was towards the end of 8th grade that I thought about it. But it was a quick thought, more not impulsive. What's the word? It starts with an I, right? Not intrusive. More like an intrusive thought, but then it went away. But then after quarantine first struck, that's when I started getting more serious about it. And I never would have told anybody before. But going into my sophomore year of high school, I told my mom about it, and that's when I got medicated. My therapist knows, my parents know. So I'm just saying that now so that you don't have to worry about me. But the thoughts, they do come up every once in a while, and I feel more comfortable talking to people about it. Before, I would have never dreamt of it, because I would have thought that people would think that I was crazy or something.
Yeah, I definitely went through a stage of suicidal thought. But in my case, I didn't really talk to anyone. Again, I just used meditation and running to clear my head. And eventually those thoughts went away, because my focus wasn't on those thoughts. My focus was on everything else that I was doing. Yeah, but we all have our own ways of dealing with things. Yeah, guys, so we reached the end of the episode. Thank you guys for listening, and peace out. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
please make sure to follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Migraines with Migraines. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you next time.